Is this something Australians
Morning,
should be
Emma.
concerned about? Are we going to run out of food?
No, look, as we've been saying for some time, that one of the things that Australians don't have to worry about is having enough food, because in Australia we're lucky enough to grow enough food, not just for our population of 25 million people approximately, but probably around 75 million. We export 2/3 of what we produce here in Australia, and I can assure Australians that having enough food is just not something, it's just one less thing. And all the things that you've been hearing about this morning, all the worries we've got about the virus, having enough food is just not one of them.
We have heard about people panic buying, that in this rush to make sure you're stocked up, the supermarkets have said that they're having to stock the shelves with enough food to feed 50 million people instead of the 25 that we actually have. Is there going to be a shortage just because people are overstocking?
Look, certainly we can't guarantee that every product, every shelf, every day, but that's mostly due to a logistics issue. When you look at the production of some of our staple products in Australia, for example, wheat, flour comes from wheat, those sorts of products at the moment are the ones that are running short on the shelves, but they're certainly not running short in terms of our stocks, in terms of how much we have here on hand in Australia, and also how much is going into the ground right now. I mean, right now, looking forward to our next crop of wheat here in Australia, we're looking at a 21 million tonne crop, and we only eat less than 9 million tonnes here in Australia. So you can see that some of these staples we've actually got plenty of, and there's just no need to panic. The problem with panicking is it removes the stock from the supermarket shelves, puts it in people's pantries, and then people who really need the food. So there is this strange thing that where there are so many people at the moment who are food insecure, who don't have access to the amazing food we produce, because right at this moment it's leaving the supermarket shelves and going into people's homes. So we need to stop the panic buying. We need to just relax and think, okay, that's one less thing we have to worry about. Here in Australia, unlike many countries around the world, we have plenty to eat. We're really lucky like that. And we should just be very calm about how we're shopping for our regular supplies.
We did have Senator Perrin Davey on this program last week. She said that one thing that would be a concern is the rice stock in Australia, because we do get most of it from Vietnam, and this year's harvest has been impacted by the ongoing drought. Should people be stocking up on rice?
No, absolutely not. So rice at the moment is the one product down the track. It's traditionally grown in Australia when we have water. Even though we are one of the most efficient rice growing countries in the world, it is a crop that is traditionally grown in Australia when we have enough water for that crop. And over the last couple of years with drought in particular, and now the new Murray-Darling Basin Plan, which is, of course, sharing water between a number of users, then we've seen greater demands on that resource, and we haven't seen as much rice production. The next rice crop is sown in October, and we're really hopeful that with the change in seasonal conditions that we're now seeing across most of eastern Australia, that in actual fact they'll be able to plant a rice crop as normal this year. But certainly if we don't get that change in the seasons, then it is a discussion, I'm sure, like many of the other discussions we'll be having when this is all over, about do we want to be self-sufficient in rice, for example? Do we want to be self-sufficient in fuel? What about medical supplies and masks and things and machinery? Australia isn't self-sufficient in a lot of these things and hasn't been for some time. But I think that's the discussion for when we get through this current crisis, not right now, because we've got plenty of rice to see us through to next year at least here in Australia.